Somewhere beneath layers of forgotten earth, behind walls softened by time, there are cities that once breathed, laughed, shined, and then quietly slipped out of the world's memory. Tonight, you and I are about to lean in a little closer than any map would recommend at this hour, and listen to the faint echoes rising from those ancient streets. Don't worry, nothing dramatic will jump out. These cities have been asleep for over 2,000 years. If anything wakes up tonight, it should be you, drifting gently into curiosity, not panic. So relax. The mysteries are friendly here. Welcome to a journey where time moves slowly, like a page turning itself, where history doesn't roar, it hums softly, almost shyly, inviting you to take a quiet walk through places the modern world nearly forgot. We're not here to solve grand puzzles or decode ancient secrets. No deadlines, no plot twists, no archaeologists running dramatically through dust clouds. Just calm footsteps along stone paths that haven't heard a sound in centuries. Tonight we wander into lost cities, Pompeii, Heracleion, Petra, and others, each one holding its own gentle charm. Imagine stone walls warmed by sunsets no one has watched in 2 millennia, or underwater ruins shimmering softly, like they're trying to remember the last party they hosted. These cities aren't haunted. They're simply resting. And they don't mind if we tiptoe through their dreams for a while. As we move from place to place, let your thoughts glide, unhurried. If a detail drifts away, let it go. If something captures your curiosity for a moment, let it stay. This is a journey without rules, without pressure, and without the need to stay awake, though you're welcome to try. These cities have lulled travelers long before the invention of pillows. You'll notice a softness settling in the quiet rhythm of ancient footsteps, the cool air of forgotten corridors, the smooth echo of stories that never rush to be told. Everything here is patient. Everything waits for you. So breathe gently. Let the world around you dim. Let the ancient streets open, not to disturb it, but to rest inside it. Chapter 1, Pompeii, when time gently stood still. Before Pompeii became the quiet, sun-warmed museum of stone that we know today, it was once a lively, slightly chaotic, and surprisingly charming Roman city. If you were to stroll through Pompeii during its most prosperous days, say sometime in the 1st century CE, you might be pleasantly surprised by how familiar everything feels. The streets were bustling, the markets were noisy in a comfortable sort of way, and people were doing what people always do: shopping, chatting, occasionally complaining about taxes, and pretending they knew exactly what was happening in politics. Pompeii thrived along the Bay of Naples, enjoying a climate so agreeable it would make any modern travel blogger consider early retirement. Grapes and olives grew with very little encouragement, villas were decorated with colorful frescoes, and the people, well, they were busy living. Archaeologists later discovered that the city had bathhouses elegant enough to make even the laziest citizen enthusiastic about hygiene, and bakeries that produced bread still recognizable today. In fact, one bakery had over 80 loaves baking at the exact moment time stopped, which is probably the most inconveniently timed baking session in history. If you wandered deeper into the heart of the city in those days, you'd find well-planned streets laid with basalt stone, restaurants serving warm meals, and homes adorned with mosaic floors, telling stories of everyday life. Pompeii was not a mysterious, mystical realm. It was deeply human, full of the small details that remind us people have always been people. They wrote graffiti on walls, they shared gossip, they decorated their homes with joy, and they embraced leisure with truly admirable dedication. What they did not do, however, was check weather forecasts. And to be fair, even if they had, the forecast for the year 79 CE would have been something like sunny, warm, unremarkable, slight chance of volcanic apocalypse. And no one would have taken that seriously. Pompeii lived comfortably in the shadow of Mount Vesuvius, a volcano that looked calm, stable, and friendly, something like a giant stone neighbor who never complains and always minds its own business. The people trusted it the way we trust street lights to stay on and coffee to wake us up. After all, Vesuvius hadn't erupted in centuries. If anything, it was viewed as a reliable part of the scenery, a mountain so predictable that no one bothered to imagine it could be anything but harmless. But nature sometimes has a quiet sense of humor. In late August of 79 CE, Vesuvius decided it had been calm long enough. Without much introduction, the volcano released a towering column of ash, pumice, and gas into the sky. Pompeii residents probably stared in confusion at first, something like, that cloud looks unusually dramatic today. And then, slowly, the reality unfolded. Ash began to fall like snowflakes that absolutely refused to melt. Roofs strained under the weight, air thickened, and the city's vibrant heart began to dim. Yet, in sleep story fashion, imagine this moment not as a scene of panic, but as the moment time softly pressed pause. A hush fell over Pompeii, not loud, not harsh, just a quiet settling of stillness as ash draped every rooftop, every doorway, every cobblestone like a muted blanket. The eruption itself lasted less than 24 hours, but the effect would echo through millennia. Pompeii, along with nearby Herculaneum, slipped beneath layers of ash and volcanic debris, sealed away with extraordinary preservation. Homes were frozen mid-moment, tools rested where they were last used, bowls sat waiting on tables for meals that never came, and footprints, actual footprints, remained imprinted in the soft layers beneath the city. For nearly 1,700 years, Pompeii slept. Trees grew above it, fields settled over it, seasons came and went, empires rose and fell, and all the while Pompeii lay still beneath the earth, like a quiet time capsule waiting for someone curious enough to open it. Its rediscovery began in the 16th century when workers digging a canal accidentally brushed against ancient walls. They didn't quite know what they'd found. Pompeii wasn't immediately recognized. Only in 1748 did systematic excavation begin, led by explorers who probably felt as though they had stumbled into the world's most well-preserved treasure chest. As layers of ash were brushed away, the city slowly awakened. Streets reappeared first, then the houses, then the gardens, and then the small details, paintings, tools, pottery, jewelry. Everything felt astonishingly fresh, like history had simply stepped out of the room for a moment and would return shortly. The vibrant colors of Pompeii's frescoes surprised everyone. After sleeping underground for centuries, these paintings emerged with shades of red, gold, and blue still glowing softly. Mosaics showing animals, mythological figures, and quiet domestic scenes appeared almost untouched. Archaeologists found kitchens, fountains, workshops, wine shops, and even graffiti, proof that human nature, with all its humor and commentary, never really changes. And so, when you imagine Pompeii today, Don't imagine a place of darkness or sorrow. Think instead of a city resting in deep stillness, preserved in a moment when time exhaled and stopped. Think of basalt streets smoothed by ancient footsteps, of doorways framing rooms filled with soft shadows, of courtyards warmed by sunlight as if they remember every morning they ever saw. Now picture yourself walking there in the gentle dusk. The air is warm, calm, unhurried. There's no rush, no deadlines, no dramatic discoveries expected of you. The rooftops rise around you like shapes in a dream, and the walls whisper quietly of lives lived with simple joys. Meals shared, water drawn, markets visited, sunsets admired. You might pause at a bakery, imagining the aroma of bread that never finished baking. Or stand in a courtyard and picture someone thousands of years ago watering a beloved plant. You may even smile at a piece of graffiti, one of which translates roughly to, "I was here. I wrote this. Hello?" A message that somehow feels both ancient and wonderfully modern. In this gentle retelling, Pompeii is not a tragedy. It is a soft reminder of life's details, preserved so carefully that we can still feel their warmth today. It is a frozen-in-time city, not because of sorrow, but because time decided to protect it instead of erasing it. And as you walk through its quiet streets, in your imagination, you may feel something settling inside you. A calm, a softness, a connection to the simple rhythm of human life that has always been the same from one century to the next. You step over the ancient stones. The air is steady, the day is slow. Everything is peaceful, still, easy. Pompeii sleeps, and gently it invites you to slow down too. Chapter 2, Heracleion, the city beneath the sleeping water. Once upon a time, long before it became a shimmering rumor beneath the Mediterranean, Heracleion was very much awake. Not just awake, but thriving with the kind of confidence only a great port city could have. Perched comfortably near the mouth of the Nile, it served as Egypt's gateway to the sea, a place where merchants, sailors, priests, and travelers from every corner of the ancient world drifted in and out like waves. If you had visited Heracleion during its golden days, you might have found it warm, bustling, and pleasantly overconfident in its own stability. After all, what city sitting on the edge of a great civilization wouldn't feel just a little important? Heracleion in its prime was a tapestry of temples, harbors, canals, and busy marketplaces. Boats glided through its waterways the way birds glide through calm air, carrying spices, linen, wine, and whispers of foreign lands. Towering statues stood guard along ceremonial routes, leading to the great temple of Amun, where rituals were performed with the kind of grandeur that suggested the gods themselves occasionally looked down, nodded approvingly, and thought, "Nice work." Even the city's name carried a certain weight. Heracleion, city of Heracles. According to Greek lore, this was where the great hero first stepped onto Egyptian soil. Whether or not that story was strictly true didn't matter. The marketing was excellent. People flocked here, trade thrived, life hummed, and the water around the city sparkled as if applauding its prosperity. But beneath all this activity, something quiet and subtle was shifting. Heracleion was built on land that wasn't entirely committed to staying put. The Nile Delta, beautiful as it was, tended to behave like a soft mattress, comfortable but not exactly structurally ideal. The ground beneath the city rested on layers of clay and sand, saturated and gentle, the kind of foundation that tolerated buildings the way a sleepy friend tolerates being leaned on. Fine at first, until suddenly, not so fine. For centuries, things seemed steady, but then slowly, so slowly, no one noticed at first, the earth beneath Heracleion began to weaken. Geological forces moved quietly, like someone rearranging furniture at night. Earthquakes trembled in the distance. The water table rose, and the city that once stood proud began to sink, with a softness so subtle it could almost be mistaken for a sigh. One day, the sinking wasn't subtle anymore. Heracleion didn't disappear in a single dramatic moment. No roaring collapse, no cinematic disaster sequence. Instead, it slipped beneath the water much the way a tired person might drift under a blanket. Gradually, gently, 1 inch at a time. Temples tilted and settled. Roads softened. Statues leaned closer to the sea as if whispering secrets before they vanished beneath the surface. And then, over decades, the city was gone. Out of sight, out of memory, wrapped in layers of silt, still and silent. For more than 1,000 years, Heracleion slept under the Mediterranean. Its grand statues rested horizontally, its canals turned into sand-filled corridors, its marketplaces froze mid-bargain, and its colossal temple stones grew comfortable in the quiet. Fish meandered where priests once walked. Seagrass swayed where banners once fluttered, and the city, tucked under the water like a forgotten dream, waited. Centuries passed, kingdoms rose and fell, maps were rewritten, and Heracleion, once a city so important it collected taxes from every ship entering Egypt, became nothing more than a whispered myth. Ancient texts mentioned it with casual confidence, but no one could point to where it had been. Some assumed it had simply never existed. Others thought it was an exaggeration, a poet's flourish. It wasn't until the late 20th century that the sea decided it was time to reveal a secret. In 1999, underwater archaeologist Frank Gaudio led an expedition off the coast of modern-day Alexandria. The team expected to find a few scattered artifacts, maybe a sunken ship or two. Nothing too dramatic. The Mediterranean, however, had other plans. As divers drifted along the seabed, they found massive temple blocks, then statues, then canals, then entire sections of a city lying beautifully, peacefully intact. And there it was, Heracleion, sleeping but unmistakably present. Imagine swimming through its ruins today. The water wraps everything in a soft blue hush. Colossal statues of gods lie gracefully across the seabed, their forms still serene. The remains of the Temple of Amun sit like pieces of a puzzle gently waiting to be reassembled. Ancient columns rest on their sides as though simply taking a long nap. Every discovery feels less like unearthing and more like waking something that was never upset about being lost to begin with. The silt preserved everything with surprising tenderness: jewelry, pottery, ceremonial tools, stone inscriptions, coins from distant empires, each piece a whisper from the past. Underwater corridors stretch into gentle darkness, reminding divers that cities, like stories, don't disappear. They just change the way they choose to be found. Heracleion's rediscovery stunned the world, not because it was tragic, but because it was peaceful. Unlike some ruins which feel torn apart by time, Heracleion seems simply paused, as if one day it decided the underwater version of itself was just as valid as the land one. Today, as archaeologists continue to explore its depths, Heracleion remains one of the most extraordinary underwater archaeological sites ever found. It's not a ghost city, it's a resting city, a place where time drifts lazily, where history floats rather than stands, and where silence feels like an intentional architectural choice. If you imagine yourself floating above its ruins, let the experience be slow. Let it feel like drifting through a dream that forgot to end. The water is calm. The statues are patient. The sand moves gently with every current, as if tucking the city in a little deeper. Heracleion teaches us something without ever speaking, that even when a city disappears, its story doesn't. It simply chooses a softer way to remain. So picture yourself there, just above its sleeping streets. Sunlight filters through the water in golden ribbons. The world is quiet. No rush, no deadlines, no footsteps. Just the soothing sway of ancient stone learning how to rest. You glide slowly past a statue that once stood proudly at a temple gate. You pause over a pathway where merchants once bargained. You drift alongside remnants of a harbor that welcomed thousands of travelers. Everything is peaceful. Everything is gentle. Heracleion sleeps beneath the sea, and in its calm silence, it invites you to float a little slower too. Chapter 3. Mahendraparvata. The city. Asleep within the gentle forest. If you could wander back in time, quietly, of course, without disturbing any butterflies or altering historical tax policies, you would find Mahendraparvata perched upon the misty heights of Phnom Kulen, living its best life as one of the early capitals of the Khmer Empire. The city was not a small, casual settlement that popped up politely and asked nature for permission to exist. No, Mahendraparvata was grand in an understated way, a place where early urban planning met lush mountain air and where people moved with the calm confidence of a civilization, building itself thoughtfully, one stone terrace at a time. Picture the landscape during its flourishing era, wide causeways stretching like gentle arms through the forest, reservoirs gleaming under warm sunlight, and terraced platforms supporting wooden structures that have since wandered off into the realm of memory. The stone shrines, simple, early, and elegant, stood quietly among the trees, designed more for presence than for spectacle. You might imagine artisans walking along those paths, maybe humming to themselves, maybe wondering whether their carvings would stand the test of time. Spoiler: the forest had other plans. Daily life in Mahendraparvata was likely peaceful in that gently industrious way ancient cities excelled at. People farmed, traded, built, repaired, and probably debated the age-old question of whether the weather was better on the mountain than down in the plains. The Kulen Plateau offered something special: cool breezes, flowing streams, and a natural elevation that made the whole region feel like a serene, elevated retreat, something between a capital city and a wellness resort, though without the smoothies. But the very beauty of the mountains, their lushness, their humidity, their enormous enthusiasm for vegetation, was also what began to swallow Mahendraparvata over time. Wooden buildings succumbed to the jungle's embrace, roots curled playfully around stone foundations, and the city slowly slipped into a peaceful slumber beneath layers of soil, moss, and a forest that grew thicker, taller, and greener with each passing century. There was no single dramatic event that erased Mahendraparvata from human memory. No volcanic outburst, no catastrophic flood, no grand cinematic collapse. It simply transitioned gently from a thriving capital to a quiet, leafy secret. As political centers shifted southward and Angkor rose to prominence, Mahendraparvata relaxed into retirement. The forest, always attentive, tucked the city in with vines and undergrowth and kept it well hidden, like a treasure placed somewhere so obvious that it becomes impossible to find. And there it slept for roughly 1,000 years. Travelers walked the mountain for centuries and had no idea they were stepping across city grids. Trees rooted themselves in carefully leveled terraces. Soil gathered over causeways. Streams meandered where roads once ran. The city was still there technically, just exceptionally well camouflaged, a talent the jungle excels at. Fast forward to the 21st century, when archaeologists armed not with shovels but with lasers began to suspect that something much larger lay beneath the Kulan canopy. Enter LiDAR, the technology that politely ignores leaves, branches, and every tree with an inflated sense of importance. LiDAR works the way a calm, observant friend might, sending small pulses of light downward, quietly collecting millions of data points, and then revealing with minimal drama, oh yes, there's an entire ancient city under there. No big deal. When the LiDAR scans came back, the world finally saw Mahendraparvata again, not as a chaotic mess of jungle, but as a vast, planned city stretching across the plateau. Straight roads appeared in the data like delicate pencil lines. Reservoirs re-emerged as soft, geometric shapes. Terraces, grid patterns, embankments, and ceremonial platforms, subtle, ancient, and deeply intentional, showed themselves in silent clarity. The forest had done an excellent job of hiding the city, but technology had politely asked it to step aside for a moment. Archaeologists walked through the actual terrain afterward, and something remarkable happened. Places that once looked like random bumps in the forest floor suddenly became meaningful. That mound over there, a platform, that dip in the earth, a water system, that seemingly natural hill, a constructed feature from more than a millennium ago. It was like adjusting the focus on a camera lens, the same view, but now everything made sense, everything aligned. Mahendraparvata had not disappeared. It had simply preferred the quiet life. Imagine yourself walking into this rediscovered city today, not in the bustling, lively era of its golden days, but in the soft version that remains. The forest is calm around you. The air is cool, touched by the scent of leaves that have never rushed in their existence. Sunlight filters through the canopy in patient beams, illuminating patches of moss, roots, and scattered stones arranged in patterns too deliberate to be random. You step onto an ancient terrace. It doesn't announce itself or shimmer with treasure. It just sits there politely, as if saying, "Yes, I've been here the whole time. Welcome." The stones feel steady beneath your feet. The earth is soft around them, shaped by centuries of resting quietly beneath trees that never once suspected they were part of a historical cover-up. Walking in Mahendraparvata today is less like exploring ruins and more like gently discovering something the forest has been whispering about for a very long time. The jungle is not hostile. It's simply protective, like a guardian that took its job of keep city safe extremely seriously. You can almost imagine the trees leaning over you, murmuring, "We kept everything right where it was. It just got a little leafy." The city's early structures remain in fragments, stone outlines, foundations, small shrines wrapped lovingly in green. Time has softened every edge. Nothing feels abrupt. Every surface is rounded by nature's patience. The forest hums quietly, a soft soundtrack, blending cicadas, rustling branches, and occasional birds who seem to comment on your presence in polite tones. As you wander farther, you might notice the remains of ancient dams and water channels, early engineering feats indicating a community that understood its landscape deeply. These systems once sustained thousands of people. Now they collect pools of still, reflective water that mirror the sky like gentle natural bowls. Stand near one long enough, and you may feel the world slow down in the most agreeable way. The rediscovery of Mahendraparvata didn't come with fanfare or explosions of dramatic music. It came as a quiet revelation, layers of data forming a picture, footsteps confirming what the lasers already knew, and the forest calmly allowing itself to be understood. Even now, much of the city remains hidden. Excavation is delicate, careful, respectful. After all, Mahendraparvata has grown used to resting, and no one is in a rush to disturb its peaceful rhythm. In the soft light of late afternoon, when the sun is low and the air turns cool, you can imagine the ancient city breathing with the forest. Not a heavy, dramatic breath, just the subtle expansion of space, the gentle awareness of presence. The plateau feels timeless, unhurried. Nature and architecture blend into one continuous texture, a harmony created over centuries of coexistence. If you listen closely, you might hear nothing at all, and that is the beauty of it. Mahendraparvata's story is not one of sudden disappearance or loud collapse. It is a story of slow, natural transformation, of a city gently returning to the earth, and of modern science quietly lifting the mist to reveal what once was. And so, as you stand there on the Kulin Plateau, in your mind's quiet evening, the city feels less like a forgotten relic and more like a soft echo, a peaceful companion, a reminder that history does not always vanish. Sometimes it just takes a deeply relaxing nap under a very enthusiastic forest. The leaves sway above you in calm patterns. The stones rest beneath your feet. The jungle exhales in a steady, comforting rhythm. Mahendraparvata sleeps. And in its presence, you feel invited to rest too. Chapter 4. Petra. The city. Carved gently into stone. If you were to visit Petra during its most vibrant days, long before it became a cinematic backdrop and a desert dream carved into stone, you'd probably find yourself pleasantly overwhelmed by the quiet sophistication of a city that understood beauty long before beauty became a trend. Petra wasn't loud or boastful. It was elegant in the way only a sandstone metropolis could be, glowing a warm rose red in the sun and feeling just a touch magical, even though everything about it was the result of skill, planning, and an impressive amount of dedication to architectural aesthetics. This ancient city, nestled within the rugged mountains of modern-day Jordan, thrived as the capital of the Nabateans. These were people with a particular talent for carving stone in a way that made rocks feel flattered. Standing on the main street of Petra in its golden age meant standing in a bustling trading hub where spices, textiles, perfumes, and a wide assortment of things people convinced each other were essential flowed in from all directions. The city sat strategically along vital trade routes, and because humans have always loved convenient shopping locations, Petra flourished. Imagine long colonnaded streets stretching under the warm sky, merchants adjusting their wares with practiced ease, and carved facades rising around you in quiet grandeur. The sandstone cliffs weren't just cliffs, they were canvases. The Nabateans sculpted tombs, halls, and monumental doorways with gentle precision, their tools shaping stone the way writers shape words. The most famous of these creations is Al-Khazne, the treasury, whose face gleams softly, like the world's most composed architectural smile. Archaeologists suggest Petra housed a complex water system, pipes, channels, dams, cisterns, that allowed the city to thrive in a climate that doesn't always feel obligated to provide rain. The Nabateans managed water so efficiently that even today's engineers tilt their heads and say, "Well, that was clever." The system turned Petra into a lush, cultivated oasis where gardens, fountains, and human life could flourish, despite the sun's energetic enthusiasm. For a long time, the city lived comfortably, humming with traders and travelers, artists and artisans, stonemasons and storytellers. Its sandstone structures blushed brighter in the morning and deepened in color as night approached. Even during its busiest years, Petra felt serene, as if the cliffs themselves absorbed the noise and reflected back only a soft, warm calmness. But time, as always, brings change. As trade routes shifted and new powers rose in the region, Petra's importance gradually faded. It didn't collapse dramatically or vanish suddenly. It simply eased itself out of the spotlight. Earthquakes in the 4th and 6th centuries damaged parts of the city, nature's gentle reminder that even stone has limits. Yet even then, Petra didn't disappear immediately. It just grew quieter day by day, year by year, until finally it settled into almost complete anonymity, wrapped in the warm simplicity of desert silence. By the Middle Ages, Petra was known mostly in whispers, more legend than location, and so the city rested for centuries. The desert winds moved across its facades, smoothing the edges, softening the colors. Sand drifted through its pathways, settling like sleepy blankets across courtyards and ancient floors. The world outside changed rapidly, but Petra, nestled in its mountains, preferred the slow rhythm of deep, uninterrupted rest. Then, in the early 19th century, the city stirred slightly. Not because it wanted to, but because someone came knocking politely. In 1812, Swiss explorer Johann Ludwig Burckhardt, traveling in disguise and fluent in Arabic, found himself guided toward the shadowed entrance of what he suspected was a lost, ancient site. He wasn't wielding lasers, drones, or dramatic orchestral music, just a notebook, curiosity, and enough linguistic skill to avoid awkward misunderstandings. When he stepped through the SIQ, a narrow, winding canyon that acts as Petra's natural entrance, he saw Al-Khazne emerge through the sandstone walls, like a dream slowly materializing. Petra had been rediscovered, and it greeted the world with its usual quiet dignity, as if saying, "Yes, I've been here. Thank you for noticing." Scientific exploration followed, revealing the city's complexity, artistry, and architectural genius. Archaeologists mapped the tombs, traced water channels, examined pottery, and studied the structures carved so effortlessly into the cliffs. They learned that Petra was not built in haste or carelessness. It was crafted thoughtfully, layer by layer, a city sculpted into permanence with remarkable understanding of geology and design. The sandstone itself tells stories. Geological studies show how wind, water, and time worked with the Nabateans, sometimes cooperating, sometimes playfully rearranging architectural plans without permission. Over millions of years, the sandstone formed delicate stripes of reds, pinks, and tan shades. The Nabateans embraced these natural patterns, carving facades that highlighted textures nature had painted long before they arrived. Today, when sunlight glides across Petra's cliffs, the colors shimmer softly, like a slow, warm heartbeat of stone. Walking through Petra in the present, or even just imagining it as you listen, feels like moving through a place perfectly balanced between human creation and natural formation. The Sikh wraps you gently in its tall, curved walls, making you feel both small and safe. When the treasury appears at the end, it doesn't leap out dramatically. It unveils itself with graceful patience, the kind of architectural reveal that could make even the calmest narrator whisper, "There it is." Beyond the treasury, Petra opens into wider spaces where temples, theaters, and tombs rest in warm, drowsy silence. Archaeologists continue to uncover features hidden beneath sand and debris, evidence of gardens, markets, ceremonial platforms, and homes arranged in an urban plan that was far more advanced than previously imagined. LiDAR surveys and new excavations reveal underground channels, forgotten pathways, and layers of city life stacked like chapters in a book that was never fully read. But Petra's charm isn't in its ruins, it's in how peacefully it presents them. The city does not overwhelm, it invites. It allows you to walk slowly, to breathe, to imagine, to feel. Time stretched gently rather than race past you. Every carved surface is a quiet conversation between human hands and patient stone. Every step is a reminder that civilizations build, fade, sleep, and sometimes wake again. Imagine yourself wandering through Petra now, not as an explorer, but as a guest of the soft evening light. The sandstone radiates warmth stored from the day. The narrow pathways cool gently under the sky. The cliffs echo faintly, not with voices, but with presence. And you walk, unhurried, allowing the city's rhythm to set your own. You pass carved facades that rise above you like serene guardians. Wind brushes lightly across the desert floor, bringing with it tiny particles of sand that travel with the gentleness of drifting thoughts. In the open theater, stone seats curve around an empty stage, as if waiting patiently for a performance that will never begin, but also never end. It's the kind of calm space that encourages deep breaths and long silences. Petra slept for centuries, but it did so gracefully, without bitterness or urgency. When modern eyes finally turned toward it again, the city didn't protest. It simply opened its pathways and allowed the world to rediscover what time had preserved: beauty, resilience, harmony, and a profound sense of stillness. And now, in your imagination, under a sky that shifts from gold to violet, Petra becomes something else entirely, a sanctuary of stone and quiet, a place where history doesn't shout but speaks in soft tones, where walls glow with the memory of sunlight, where every surface seems to say, "Rest. There is no hurry here." You sit on a smooth rock, warmed from the day. The cliffs above you rise in gentle layers. The desert breathes in a slow, steady rhythm. And for a moment you feel as though you too are part of the stone, anchored, calm, timeless. Petra rests, and in its presence, so do you. Chapter 5, Chactún, the Serpent City resting in the deep green. If you could visit Chactún during its flourishing era, long before vines draped across its plazas like elegant leafy curtains, you would find a city pulsing gently with life activity, and a sense of confident purpose. This was a Maya metropolis tucked deep within what is now the dense Campeche jungle of Mexico. And in its day, Chactún stood proudly as a regional center full of broad causeways, multi-tiered platforms, and structures built with an architectural precision that suggested someone really enjoyed measuring things accurately. The city's builders were masters of stone. They shaped limestone into long staircases, tall platforms, and intricate facades that caught the sunlight in warm, shifting shades. Carved stelae, tall, upright slabs, stood throughout Chactún's plazas, presenting information in a style that looked elegant, authoritative, and slightly intimidating, like stone-specific versions of official announcements. Archaeologists later determined that these monuments likely recorded dates, rulers, or civic achievements, which is essentially proof that ancient people loved documenting things just as much as we do today, except they did it with significantly more upper body strength. Life in Chactún during its golden age would have been steady and structured. Imagine bustling plazas where merchants arranged goods in neat rows, children darted between buildings, and artisans worked patiently on stone surfaces, smoothing edges and chiseling patterns with rhythmic persistence. Despite being deep within the jungle, Chactún was hardly isolated. Roads known as Sakbiob connected it to other settlements, allowing trade and communication to flow across the region. The jungle was lush and busy, but the people of Chactún seemed just as busy, building, farming, planning, and going about life with the calm determination that thriving cities tend to have. And then, slowly over time, history shifted. For reasons historians continue to study, changes in climate, shifting political landscapes, resource challenges, or perhaps the city deciding it was tired from centuries of productivity, Chactún gradually emptied. There is no grand collapse narrative here, no sudden disappearance in a single dramatic moment. Instead, think of Chactún's fading like a slow sunset, soft, gradual, and hardly noticeable until the last light slips quietly behind the tree line. Structures began to crumble gently as the years passed. Without people to maintain them, cracks widened, stones shifted, and the jungle, being the enthusiastic decorator that it is, moved in quickly. Roots explored cracks with curiosity. Leaves layered themselves into soft carpets. Moss formed its own subtle designs. The forest, in all its patient ambition, reclaimed the city not by force, but by persistence. And just like that, Chactún entered a long, leafy sleep. For over 1,000 years, the city rested beneath a thick canopy of green. The jungle protected it, concealed it, and wrapped it so completely that even when explorers traveled through the region, Chactún remained politely out of sight, an entire metropolis hiding behind the simple strategy of blending in extremely well with nature. It wasn't until 2013 that Chactún startled the world by appearing on a screen. Archaeologist Ivan Spreich, along with a research team scanning remote forest regions, used satellite imagery and aerial photography to identify unusual geometric shapes beneath the trees. In a jungle, geometry is always suspicious. Nature rarely draws perfectly straight lines unless it's feeling experimental. So, the team investigated. It took a long trek, hours pushing through thick vegetation, navigating terrain that mosquito populations considered prime real estate, before Spreich and his crew reached the site. And there, rising among trees, vines, and layers of history, lay Chactún, a city no one had seen for centuries, but which had been waiting the whole time. As scientists walked through the ruins, the scale became clear. Plazas, pyramidal structures, stone causeways, all hidden under layers of jungle, but unmistakably human-made. Some structures towered above the forest floor, partially visible, as if stretching after a long nap to see who had arrived. Excavation began slowly and respectfully. Archaeologists uncovered stelae inscribed with complex glyphs, building foundations arranged with deliberate symmetry, and great platforms that once supported ceremonial or administrative structures, though no one today can say exactly which structures did what, and the jungle certainly isn't telling. Working in Chactún wasn't just archaeological activity, it was also a physical challenge. Clearing vegetation in the humid heat meant the team was often accompanied by insects, curious lizards, and the occasional snake, who probably wondered why so many humans were interrupting its otherwise peaceful day. Still, despite the conditions, researchers were captivated. Chactún wasn't just a forgotten ruin, it was a sophisticated city that had slipped quietly from memory. Imagine yourself walking through Chactún now, not with excavation tools or measuring equipment, but with the soft steps of someone visiting a place that has settled comfortably into stillness. The jungle is calm around you. The air is warm and fragrant with leaves and damp soil. The canopy above filters sunlight into gentle gold, making the world feel softened at the edges. Ahead you see a broad staircase covered in moss. Time has smoothed the stones, and nature has decorated them with the kind of organic aesthetic interior designers long for. You imagine people once climbing these stairs with baskets, tools, notes carved into bark, or simply a sense of purpose. Today, birds hop along the same steps, making soft noises that seem like commentary on everything and nothing. You walk further and find a plaza. Trees stand in places where crowds once gathered. Roots wind through cracks in the stone, creating new patterns, nature's calligraphy. The silence here isn't empty, it's peaceful, like the quiet after a long conversation. The jungle wraps around Chactún with affectionate familiarity. Vines drape over large stone blocks, curling through windows and archways as if stitching them together. Ferns grow in the shade of old walls. It feels as though the forest has adopted the city completely, making sure it stays warm, covered, and slightly mysterious. Archaeologists studying Chactún discovered that its builders designed the city with a clear logic: central plazas, surrounding complexes, and interconnected platforms. Even tucked beneath plants and roots, the symmetry remains visible. The forest may change shapes, but it rarely disturbs the city's intention. Standing at the base of one of Chactún's pyramidal mounds, you look up and see trees rising from its summit, their branches waving gently in the breeze. It's hard to tell whether the structure belongs to the jungle or the jungle belongs to the structure. Either way, the harmony is calming. The air settles softly around you. Even your footsteps become quieter, as if Chactún encourages you to match its peaceful rhythm. No rush, no urgency, just the slow unfolding of space and time. If you listen closely, you won't hear anything dramatic. No echoes of forgotten ceremonies or ancient calls. Chactún's history speaks in a whisper. It tells its story through sunlight, sliding across stone, through leaves drifting onto old platforms, through small creatures scurrying in patterns that only they understand. You move through another corridor of ruined walls, the path narrowing before opening into a clearing filled with soft green light. The city feels endless and intimate at the same time, like a dream where the landscape shifts just beyond your awareness. Chactún doesn't need to be fully uncovered. Its beauty lies in the balance of what is visible and what remains hidden, what science can explain and what nature keeps as a secret. The city has chosen a quieter existence now, and in its company your mind follows. Thoughts slow, breath deepens, the world narrows to the gentle hum of insects and the soft rustle of leaves. You find a smooth stone to sit on. The jungle surrounds you, warm and protective. Time stretches out softly like a long exhale, and you realize that Chactún is not just a lost city, it is a resting city, a quiet city, a city that slipped beneath the forest not to disappear, but to dream. And now, as you sit with it, you sink into that dream too. Chactún rests, and in its tranquil shadow so do you. Chapter 6, Pavlopetri, the 5,000-year-old city resting under the gentle sea. If you were to visit Pavlopetri around 2800 BCE, long before it decided to relocate permanently to the bottom of the Mediterranean, you'd find a small but thriving coastal settlement, humming with the rhythm of early urban life. Pavlopetri wasn't a grand metropolis or a glittering center of ancient politics. Instead, it was quietly industrious, a place where people worked, traded, repaired pottery, washed fabrics, and undoubtedly complained about daily chores in languages now long forgotten. Picture this seaside town in its prime. Stone-built houses arranged in tidy blocks, pathways weaving between doorways, open courtyards catching warm sunlight, and the soft sound of waves brushing the shore. The architecture was simple, purposeful, and surprisingly modern-looking, so modern, in fact, that archaeologists occasionally tilt their heads and say something like, "Ah, yes, ancient urban planning. Very minimalist, very chic." Residents of Pavlopetri were connected to the sea in a very practical way. They traded goods with nearby communities, navigated the coastline with small boats, and likely enjoyed a culinary routine dominated by seafood, which is objectively one of ancient history's better lifestyle perks. They crafted tools, decorated ceramics, and developed a layout that suggested they understood order, flow, and the importance of not tripping over random objects at night. Daily life here would have been calm, with gentle breezes, water lapping the shore, and neighbors chatting across stone courtyards. No one knew, of course, that their peaceful routines would someday become subjects of underwater surveys, 3D modeling, and documentaries narrated in soothing British accents. But for the time being, life was good. Yet the ocean, patient as always, was watching. Pavlopetri sat on a tectonically active coastline, which is the geological equivalent of building a house next to a neighbor who sometimes rearranges the entire landscape without warning. Over centuries, a combination of earthquakes, gradual sea level rise, and coastal subsidence nudged the city downward, little by little, like a slow-motion version of nature saying, "Just a bit more. There we go. Perfect." There was no single catastrophic event that sank the city dramatically. No roaring tsunami carrying buildings away, no wave sweeping through with cinematic flair. Instead, Pavlopetri slipped underwater in increments so subtle that the process likely went unnoticed until the ocean quietly claimed the last remaining edges. One day, the sea simply occupied the space where people had lived, worked, and carefully arranged their pots. And there it remained, entirely submerged, almost untouched, for nearly 5,000 years. Generations passed, civilizations rose and fell, maps were drawn and redrawn, but Pavlopetri enjoyed one of history's longest naps beneath the waves. Fish glided over its rooftops. Seagrass brushed gently against stone walls. Sand settled in the corners of ancient rooms. The city entered a deep blue silence, preserved not by ash or desert or jungle, but by the cool steadiness of the sea. Then came 1967. A marine archaeologist named Nicholas Fleming was surveying the seabed near Laconia, Greece, when he noticed something unnatural. A layout too geometric, too intentional to be random. He and his team mapped the area and realized they were not looking at a scattering of rocks, but at streets, walls, and courtyards arranged with unmistakable human design. Pavlopetri had resurfaced. Not literally, of course, the ocean wasn't giving it back, but in human awareness. In 2009, a new wave of research brought even greater clarity. Using advanced underwater mapping technology, including high-resolution sonar and 3D modeling, archaeologists produced a detailed map of the entire site. For the first time, the ancient city revealed its full outline: rooms, alleys, large open courts, and even what appeared to be docks or waterfront structures. The most amazing part? Pavlopetri remains the oldest known underwater city, with an actual recognizable layout, a bona fide seafloor suburbia. Now imagine yourself there, not diving professionally, not wearing heavy equipment, just gliding gently, as if the sea has kindly removed gravity for the sake of your sleep journey. The water is clear, calm, and softly illuminated by beams of sunlight that ripple across the seafloor like warm, shimmering brush strokes. As you descend, you see stone walls emerging from the sand, their shapes softened by time but still confident in their form. Rooms open into other rooms, doorways still stand, and pathways run through the site like invitations. Nothing rushes here. Not the water, not the fish drifting lazily past, not you. You float above a long corridor, once a street, now hosting clumps of seagrass that sway in a relaxed, uncoordinated dance. Small fish slip between the stones like tiny tour guides who have retired from the hospitality industry but still enjoy lingering around the sites. The buildings are arranged with a familiarity that feels strangely modern. You might catch yourself thinking, "Ah, yes. This looks like a perfectly normal neighborhood, except for the part where I'm underwater and slightly more buoyant than usual." As you drift onward, you approach what archaeologists think may have been workshops or storage rooms. Amphorae, big ceramic jars once used for transporting goods, lie partially buried in the sand, their curves softened by centuries beneath gentle currents. They look peaceful, as though they have accepted their aquatic destiny. Nothing here feels broken or abandoned. Instead, it feels serene, protected, balanced, like the sea has spent thousands of years keeping the city safe under a quiet blue blanket. Marine archaeologists describe Pavlopetri as unusually well preserved for its age. The seabed has remained stable, allowing the layout to stay intact despite passing centuries. The city's survival is partly due to this stability and partly due to the ocean's protective nature. Water may be restless on the surface, but deeper down, it tends to keep secrets very well. You glide over the largest open space, a courtyard, and imagine children once running across it, neighbors gathering for daily conversation, artisans shaping pottery in the warm sun. Now the sunlight reaches it through the water in shimmering strands, creating patterns across the stone floor that never existed before the city sank. And here is the magic of Pavlopetri. It is both ancient and newly transformed. The sea has not erased it. It has reimagined it. You drift along the perimeter of the settlement, where rectangular house foundations align neatly, each doorway leading into shadows softened by drifting sand. You peek through a window-like opening, an actual ancient window, and are greeted by a fish who seems mildly surprised to see you. You nod politely. The fish nods back, or maybe that's just water movement. Either way, the exchange feels friendly. The entire environment is hypnotically calm. The water hums with quiet energy. Your body feels light, supported effortlessly by the sea. Pavlopetri is not a ruin to be mourned. It is a dream to be visited. Modern research continues to explore this submerged world. New mapping techniques, underwater drones, photogrammetry, and sediment analysis help scientists understand how the city lived, how it adapted, and how it transitioned into the underwater realm. Each discovery adds layers of gentle curiosity rather than urgency. Nothing about Pavlopetri demands haste. Its story unfolds the way underwater currents move, slow, fluid, graceful. As you float above the seafloor, the ancient stone lines beneath you become a soft geometry of tranquility. The longer you observe, the more the city feels alive, not in movement, but in presence. A presence shaped by the patient partnership between human construction and natural transformation. You sense the city breathing in its own quiet rhythm. The sea expands with each tide. The stones settle a little deeper. The sunlight shifts from gold to silver as it passes through the water. This is the kind of place where time itself relaxes, loosening its grip, letting everything drift toward stillness. If you close your eyes now, even for a moment, you may feel the gentle sway of the water around you, the weightlessness of imagining yourself between past and present, floating above rooms that once held laughter, work, rest, and everyday life. Human stories now wrapped in blue. Pavlopetri sleeps under the sea, and in its embrace your thoughts begin to drift, lighter and lighter. The ocean hums softly. The ruins rest peacefully. And somewhere in the calm depths, the ancient city continues dreaming. As you rise slowly toward the surface again, leaving Pavlopetri in its watery quiet, you carry with you the serene knowledge that some cities do not fade. They transform. They simply choose a quieter world beneath the waves. And Pavlopetri, gentle and glowing under sunlight-filtered waters, keeps dreaming, drawing you into its dream as you float away. Chapter 7. Göbekli Tepe, the 12,000-year-old site sleeping under gentle earth. If you could drift backward through time, farther than the rise of cities, farther than pottery, farther than the invention of the wheel, schedules, or people arguing about whose idea something was first, you would eventually arrive at Göbekli Tepe. Situated in what is now southeastern Turkey, this remarkable site flourished around 9,600 BCE, long before agriculture neatly organized human lives, and long before anyone thought stone might someday require user manuals and excavation teams. Göbekli Tepe, in its prime, was not a bustling metropolis. It didn't have paved roads, charming bakeries, or market squares where people haggled over the price of olives. Instead, it featured something entirely different. Large circular structures built with astonishing precision, crafted from towering T-shaped limestone pillars arranged in patterns that would make even modern architects raise an eyebrow in impressed silence. Imagine the area during its flourishing era, not the quiet hill you see today, but a landscape where groups of hunter-gatherer communities gathered, collaborated, shared knowledge, and shaped massive stones with tools that modern people would politely describe as minimalistic. The pillars, some weighing up to 10 tons, stood upright in circles, their surfaces carved with animals, foxes, snakes, wild boars, birds. Not for worship, not for ritual, we won't go there, just as a creative expression of early human artistry and cultural identity, like the Paleolithic version of a very ambitious open-air gallery. In its time, Göbekli Tepe would have felt surprisingly lively. People came and went across seasons, bringing food, exchanging practical knowledge, shaping new stones, and occasionally pausing to admire someone's very well-carved leopard. The atmosphere would have been energetic in a calm, ancient way, lots of human presence, but without the clutter of modern noise, no carts rattling, no metal tools clinking, no background playlist of dramatic music, just wind, footsteps, conversation, and the sound of chisels tapping stone. Despite being 12,000 years old, the construction shows a sense of planning far ahead of its era. Archaeologists studying the site discovered that stone pillars were placed in carefully measured arrangements, meaning someone, or several someones, had a very good eye for geometry, long before math textbooks existed. The circles had central pillars, peripheral pillars, carved imagery, and intentionally smoothed floors. Early humans weren't just surviving, they were organizing, designing, and thinking in ways that feel quietly impressive even now. But like many ancient places, Göbekli Tepe eventually experienced change. The people who once shaped the hill's monumental stones moved on. Communities evolved, landscapes shifted. The original builders gradually transitioned from their lifestyle toward more settled forms of living elsewhere, closer to water sources, fertile land, and areas more suitable for long-term habitation. And Göbekli Tepe, with its stone circles standing proudly on the windswept ridge, slowly became less central to human movement. What followed was not a dramatic abandonment or catastrophic event. There was no sudden natural disaster, no violent erasure. Archaeologists believe Göbekli Tepe was intentionally backfilled over a long period of time. Soil, debris, and sediment were used to gently bury the structures, covering pillars and carvings until the site blended seamlessly into the surrounding landscape. Whether this process was symbolic, practical, or simply the ancient equivalent of tidying up before moving on, no one knows for sure. What we do know is that Göbekli Tepe entered one of the longest, quietest sleeps in history. For nearly 10,000 years, the site rested beneath layers of earth. Rain fell, seasons passed, wind ruffled grasses overhead, and no one suspected that beneath the gentle hill lay some of humanity's earliest monumental architecture. Travelers passed by without a second thought. Shepherds grazed animals on the slopes. Birds built nests in the tall grasses. And under it all, the pillars waited, silent, undisturbed, and remarkably well preserved. Everything remained hidden until the 20th century. In the 1960s, during a preliminary survey, researchers noted unusual limestone fragments and possible structural shapes beneath the surface. But it wasn't until the mid-1990s, when archaeologist Klaus Schmidt revisited the area with fresh eyes, that the truth began emerging. He recognized that these stones were not natural formations, nor random scatterings. They belong to a site of immense age and complexity. Excavation began slowly and methodically. As layers of soil were removed, the first pillars emerged, standing in their original positions despite thousands of years of silence. Carvings reappeared with sharp details, animals in relief, symbols, and shapes that felt simultaneously ancient and surprisingly modern in their clarity. The stone circles that once held lively gatherings were suddenly visible again, this time under the curious gaze of the world. Advances in dating techniques revealed something astonishing. Göbekli Tepe wasn't just old, it was far older than any known settled structure. Older than pottery, older than agriculture, older even than many traditional assumptions about early human organization. The site rewrote timelines, reshaped theories, and politely asked archaeologists to reconsider several charts they had grown very attached to. Today, Göbekli Tepe is considered one of the earliest known monumental architectural sites in human history, built long before there were cities, temples, or permanent households. And even though its purpose remains largely unknown, the beauty of the site is that it doesn't need labels to be meaningful. It stands softly on the landscape as a testament to human creativity, collaboration, and ambition. Now imagine yourself walking through Göbekli Tepe, not as it is today, fenced and studied, but in a serene, dreamlike state where the structures stand quietly around you in their ancient layout. The air feels warm, carrying the gentle scent of sunlit earth. The horizon stretches endlessly, soft hills rolling beneath a pale sky. You pass one of the circular enclosures. The pillars rise gracefully, their surfaces warmed by sunlight. The carvings, animals frozen in lively motion, seem to shimmer gently as shadows move across them. You run your hand along the stone. In your imagination, of course, actual archaeologists would kindly ask you not to touch anything. The stone feels cool and steady, shaped by hands long gone but still whispering through time. The ground beneath your feet is smooth, subtly worn by the footsteps of people who once gathered here. Their voices are gone, but the space feels full, not with noise but with presence. A calm, ancient presence that settles into your breath. You walk slowly, the pillars forming soft silhouettes against the sky. Wind brushes past your ears like a long exhale from the hill itself. There is no urgency here, no mystery that demands solving, no ceremonial interpretation forcing itself into your thoughts. Only the quiet fact that humans very long ago gathered stones, shaped them, arranged them, and left behind traces of their creativity, traces now emerging again into light. As you drift through the site, you may notice how balanced everything feels. The pillars stand in patient circles. The earth rises around them like gentle shoulders. Even the sky seems to widen, giving the stones room to breathe. Göbekli Tepe is old, astonishingly old, but it does not feel ancient in a distant way. Instead, it feels familiar, calm, restful, as though it understands the passage of time better than anyone and has decided not to rush you through it. Now close your eyes for a moment and picture the entire hill bathed in golden sunset. Shadows stretch softly, the air cools, the landscape hums with the slow rhythmic sounds of evening, and beneath your feet lies a structure built 12 millennia ago, preserved by time, earth, and silence. Göbekli Tepe sleeps lightly beneath the open sky. And as you move through it in thought, you begin to rest with it. The stones remain steady, the earth remains warm, and the past drifts closer, not to disturb you, but to cradle you gently in its calm, ancient quiet. Göbekli Tepe rests, and in its presence you drift effortlessly into stillness. Chapter 8. The Journey Back. Traces of civilizations that chose to sleep. If you have traveled with us through lost cities and quiet ruins, through underwater neighborhoods and stone-carved kingdoms, then you might notice something interesting happening inside you now, something gentle and steady, as if your thoughts are walking more slowly than they used to. Perhaps it is because ancient places have a way of softening the mind, smoothing out the noise, and reminding us that even the busiest civilizations eventually rest. Now we begin the journey home, though not the hurried kind of return that modern life insists upon. No rushing, no deadlines, no trains to catch. Instead, imagine a calm path unfolding before you, woven from everything you have seen, everything you have wondered about, and everything time has whispered along the way. The path begins with the golden light of Pompeii, where streets once echoed with everyday life and then slipped into stillness beneath ash. Science uncovered homes preserved like paused memories, frescoes holding onto color, and objects waiting just where their owners placed them. It taught us that history does not disappear. It simply chooses moments to rest in surprising ways. A little farther down the path, you feel the cool shift of water around you, the gentle sway of currents brushing your hands. This is Heracleion, the city that drifted into the sea and continued its existence beneath the waves. Archaeologists mapped its submerged buildings with sonar and robotics, revealing a harbor world so peaceful it now feels like an underwater dream. Science showed us that even cities can change habitats, relocating quietly to new environments without raising too much fuss. Next comes the soft shadow of a forest where the air is sweet with leaves and earth. This is Mahendraparvata, a city hidden beneath the Kulan jungle for centuries. Lidar peeled back the canopy, revealing the city's skeleton with gentle precision. Platforms and terraces emerged from the green, as if waking slowly from a deep nap. Here, science reminded us that even when nature wraps something tightly, the story inside can still breathe. A warm glow appears next, the rose red of Petra. Its sandstone walls shine like soft embers in the evening light. Once carved with astonishing detail, then quiet for centuries, the city returned to our awareness thanks to explorers and archaeologists who realized that beauty can remain patient for a very long time. It is a city that proves time is not always a thief. Sometimes it is simply a careful guardian. A shift again, deeper into the green, where Chactún rests beneath vines and moss. Satellite scans and boots on the ground revealed its plazas, platforms, and monumental stones. Even hidden under centuries of jungle, the city's geometry remained faithful to its builders. Here, science did not rush to conclusions. It approached the ruins with calm curiosity, matching the city's quiet temperament. Another step brings the gentle rhythm of underwater light, where Pavlopetri sleeps beneath the Mediterranean. The oldest known submerged city sat perfectly still for thousands of years before sonar and digital mapping unveiled its rooms and corridors. Fish glide through ancient doorways, seagrass sways where people once walked. It is a reminder that life continues in unexpected ways, and that silence is its own form of preservation. Then, at the edge of the path, you feel a shift in time itself. Shapes rise from soft hills, older than farming, older than writing, older even than many of our assumptions. Göbekli Tepe, with its proud stones and quiet presence, emerges from the earth thanks to meticulous excavation and the patient language of archaeology. It tells us that human creativity began far earlier than we thought, and that history is far more layered than it appears at first glance. All these places gather behind you now, forming a soft constellation of ancient rests and rediscoveries. They stand not as monuments to loss, but as reminders of continuity, of the way time folds gently around human stories. And as you walk, you realize that each city, no matter how mighty or humble, eventually steps into silence. Not a final silence, but a peaceful one. The trail ahead becomes smoother, the light softer. Every civilization you have visited leaves a footprint on the path. Pompeii leaves an echo of preserved moments. Heracleion leaves a shimmer of underwater calm. Mahendraparvata leaves the scent of deep forest stillness. Petra leaves warmth. Chactún leaves green shadows. Pavlopetri leaves drifting beams of filtered sunlight. And Göbekli Tepe leaves the steady heartbeat of ancient stone. Science guided you through all of them, quietly illuminating what was once hidden, not with spectacle, but with gentle persistence. It showed that discovery is not always loud. Sometimes it is just a matter of looking closely, listening patiently, and letting the earth reveal things at its own pace. As the journey home continues, you feel the world around you grow lighter. The ground beneath your feet becomes soft, like dust warmed by sunset. The air grows quiet. Your breath becomes slow without you noticing. And all the cities you have visited begin to settle behind you, like old friends, kindly stepping back to let you rest. The horizon ahead is simple, open, welcoming. There is no rush. The past has done its part, and now it walks beside you like a calm companion. Every discovery reminds you that life moves in cycles, that everything changes form, that everything eventually finds a quieter shape. You step forward once more, and the ancient world gently fades into a soft glow. Not disappearing, just resting, just waiting, just being. The path home is no longer a journey through ruins, but a journey through peace, a journey through quiet layers of time, a journey that leads not outward, but inward. You breathe. The world holds still for a moment, and you follow the gentle rhythm back to yourself. The civilizations rest, and so do you. Chapter 9. The last doorway, where the night gently welcomes you. You have walked a long path tonight through lost cities, quiet forests, underwater streets, and ancient stones that have seen more sunrises than we can easily count. Each place whispered something soft into the air, not to overwhelm you, but to slow your breath, to smooth your thoughts, to help you remember that time is patient and that the world is calmer than it sometimes seems. And now, as the journey settles into its final moments, you stand before a doorway, not a dramatic doorway with torches or monumental carvings, just a simple opening in the soft landscape of your imagination. It is shaped by quiet and framed by darkness that feels warm rather than deep. The kind of darkness that gently wraps around you like a well-timed blanket. Take a moment here. Notice how your breath has already slowed, how your shoulders sit lower without you asking them to, how your thoughts have become rounder, softer, less interested in making bold statements? This doorway is not a barrier. It is an invitation, one that says, in a calm and unhurried voice, "Welcome. You have arrived." Before you step through, the world behind you settles into a gentle shimmer. Pompeii glows with the last traces of a sunset that happened 2,000 years ago. Heracleion sways beneath the sea in silver threads of light. Mahendraparvata breathes quietly beneath the forest canopy. Petra rests in rose-red stillness. Chactún curls into the jungle like a sleeping animal. Pavlopetri drifts peacefully under blue water. Göbekli Tepe hums with ancient stone calm. All of them fade into a soft tapestry woven with silence, memory, and time. This is not a farewell, just a gentle pause. You carry them with you even now, not as heavy histories, but as light impressions. A tone, a mood, a slow rhythm that matches the quietness of your breathing. In front of you, the doorway brightens and dims in an easy rhythm, like it is breathing too. You take one small step closer. The ground under your feet feels warm, almost familiar, as if you have walked here many times without noticing. You might laugh a little inside at how peaceful everything feels. Maybe you did not expect ancient cities to escort you into sleep, but they have done their part with surprising professionalism, standing still for thousands of years just so they could lend you their quiet for one night. Very considerate of them. As you stand before the doorway, you notice that there is no handle, no lock, no decision to be made. There is only ease, only rest, only the calm suggestion that stepping through might feel very much like sinking into the softest layer of your own thoughts. So you breathe in, a slow breath, gentle and wide, and then you let it go, as lightly as a leaf falling onto calm water. The air around you shifts. Not a dramatic shift, just one of those subtle changes that happens when you realize your mind has loosened its grip on the noise of the day. Thoughts scatter and settle like dust in warm sunlight. You do not need to chase them. They have already grown quieter. This is the moment when the night begins to guide you. You take one more step, almost without noticing, and the world becomes even softer. The doorway opens not into a place, but into a feeling, a weightless feeling, a drifting feeling, a sense that gravity itself is adjusting to be more gentle with you. Behind you, the ancient world smiles in a quiet, knowing way. It does not follow. It does not need to. The memories of the cities remain where they belong, resting in the landscape of your mind like smooth stones placed carefully along a riverbank. Ahead of you, the night spreads out like a calm sea. Not dark, not deep, just steady, just peaceful. You walk into it slow and unhurried. With each step, the world becomes a little quieter. The colors dim into soft twilight. The thoughts in your head stretch out, relax, and then lie down somewhere comfortable. You might feel your body sinking a little heavier into whatever holds you. Your limbs relax without instruction. Your breath becomes smooth and rhythmic, like waves nudging a shoreline that has waited all day for evening. The doorway behind you fades completely now, not closing, just dissolving. There is no need for an exit. This is your final destination for the night. You continue drifting, lighter still. Thoughts melt into one another. The edges of the world blur softly. Everything becomes a gentle continuity of calm. You no longer walk. You simply float, as if sleep has reached out and said, "Come here, you have done enough for today." Ahead there is only warmth, only quiet, only rest. You are moving toward a place without shape, a place made entirely of softness, a place you have been before, though it changes a little each night. It welcomes you the way familiar rooms do, with an ease that asks nothing from you. You pause at the edge of this softness, not because something stops you, but because your mind enjoys the stillness of being suspended here for a moment. You hover between waking and dreaming, between thought and drift. Then without effort, you cross the final threshold. Sleep catches you gently, like hands cupping falling water. There is no drop. There is no startle. Only the slow embrace of a night that has waited patiently for you to arrive. Let yourself fall fully into this rest. Let the quiet wrap around you. Let the softness become your world for now. The cities are resting, the earth is resting, and you finally are resting too. Good night, traveler. May the quiet hold you. May sleep keep you. May the doorway stay open for whenever you choose to return.